Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Brown. I work at the Princeton University Art Museum where I'm a collections information specialist in the art information team.
And I'm Dan Brennan. I'm the museum application developer at the Princeton University Art Museum, also part of the art information team, working on data and image services and all things related.
So today we're going to present to you about digital content management. So we feel like many other institutions, our museum has created and published quite a bit of digital content and other resources in the last 10 plus years. I think that this really was a big takeaway from attending MCN last year in San Diego, that this topic of what do we do with all of these resources and digital content and how do we find a home for it, and was a real hot topic. So we're happy to talk about this with you guys this year. So we have grappled with finding a sustainable system to centralize and store these resources, index them, relate them back to the collection, increase their discoverability and access points within our website. So those were all very high priorities for finding a system. So in the next 30 minutes, we hope to highlight our headless content management system, Strappy. We're going to briefly show you Strappy and the data model that we have set up for various content types and how Strappy fits within our current systems and architecture already established here at the museum. So I'll just add that this project officially kicked off in 2018 at the museum with funding from IMLS. So this funding supported various staff and deliverables for this project. Most importantly, we were able to hire a production assistant to catalog and assess the backlog of already created resources and content. And this also set time aside for us to find a solution and build it. So next, we just wanted to highlight some of the already existing content that we are dealing with in its original format and presentation. So here we have a microsite of the campus art collection at the museum. And so as you can see, this web page, which is, I should also add that our website is built on a Drupal platform. So as you can see, this page on the campus art website has rich interpretive information and audio and comparative illustrations here. So you will see, so just for this one object in the collection, the manager of campus collection was able to get multiple voices and various voices of expertise to contribute to these audio recordings about this piece in particular. And so I will also pull up the actual object page from our website. So Dan, I don't know if you want to add in any insight on showing that, as you can see, this is the same object, but this is our collection page, and we only have one small area of interpretation on this page.
Yeah, thanks. And this is a perfect illustration kind of the problem that we're trying to solve here, which is that the microsite that we first saw that has all of that extra stuff, the audio, the voices, exists on a completely different platform and a completely different data model than the object pages on our website. And so really what we're trying to get at is how do we relate these things so that all of this data can be presented together in both places, ideally.
Thank you. And this is just another example of one of the many microsites that we have that is that contains audio files. So we have lots and lots of multimedia files existing on all of these microsites. So this was for a special exhibition in, I believe, 2015 for Cezanne and the Modern. So another type of resource that we're trying to deal with centralizing and indexing are teacher resources and also family activities. So these are mostly for K through 12 age group. But as you can see, the only way to access these resources are through the Learn tab. And these all are just solely listed, and it just links you to a PDF. And so as you can see, we have a nice teacher resource PDF about Paul Cezanne and illustrating certain objects in the collection at the museum. So really a priority for teacher resources is to relate this back to the collection, artists or makers or culture in the collection as well. And I'll take you to the next type that we deal with here. And these are museum videos. So since we've closed in March, we have accumulated and recorded many, many more videos. So the videos that the museum produces vary from art making and programming to exhibition openings, artist talks you'll see here. We have various curators speaking about certain pieces in the collection. And again, the only way to access these videos is limited through the Learn dropdown. And these are all ordered solely chronologically, and there's no other search capability for this resource in particular. The last content piece that I'll talk about is a lot of these interpretive essays we have about groupings of objects in the collection. So like other institutions, you know, we use TMS and text entries in particular to catalog gallery labels and things like that, but really there's not a good home in TMS to catalog this interpretive material about a certain object set. So that was another content type that we were grappling with when taking into consideration the data model for Strappy. So I'm going to pass things back to Dan, who's going to talk about how we came to selecting Strappy.
Thanks, Sarah. So the problem that we're really facing here is twofold. There's a problem of content organization. How do we really make all these connections and draw all these connections and organize all this content in such a way that the types of things that we really want to manifest, such as, you know, audio files to objects, videos to objects, learning resources to artists, even if we can establish all of those connections in a way that's satisfactory, how do we really kind of establish a system for tracking all of that and then making that data portable so that we can then use it in our various platforms and services? So we really kind of came to a realization early on in assessing this problem that what we needed to achieve this goal and really to establish an extensible architecture that we could build upon was something of a data access layer that we didn't already have. This would be something that our front-facing APIs and platforms could reach into to retrieve structured data from any number of sources and then deliver to various platforms and applications and products. We had had some experience building these kinds of data shuttling mechanisms, really because we built out a collection API for powering the online collection a year or two before this. So we knew that we could accomplish a lot of that kind of movement of data between systems using ETL services and approaches that we had used in the past. What we didn't have at all that we knew we really needed to make all of this work was some kind of a UI into this data access layer. Something that a human could use to look at all this data from a high vantage point, and if necessary, enter, update, or modify it to meet the needs of the various, you know, content cataloging projects that we had going on, and also content creation projects that we had going on. So we started researching this problem around 2017, right when we started to think about writing this IMLS grant. And I want to show, I'm going to share my screen now and show kind of a diagram that actually made its way into the IMLS proposal at the time. And this was our attempt to kind of manifest a kernel of that idea, knowing what we knew at the time about what we had on hand at the time in terms of content and systems, with an eye towards what we were trying to accomplish. And it's pretty rough, but it's worth looking at this point because we can then take this very beginning step and then look at what we've ended up with today in 2020, which is this diagram, which is a much more concrete look at our various platforms and applications and services, where we store our data and in what systems and how it gets to and from various things. And so the reason I show this is because, I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now for a second. The reason we show this is because we realized we had two options available to us. We could either build a system like this ourselves, which is always an attractive idea in some ways, especially if you're a developer like me, or we could try to find something off the shelf that meet the needs. We realized if we could find something that meet the need, say 75%, that was pretty good and worth investigating further. So the notion of a headless CMS emerged pretty early as a potential solution to this. And a headless CMS, for those who don't know, is a content management system that really divorces your data from the presentation of your data. Unlike, say, something like Drupal, where if we put a piece of content into Drupal, the only way really we can display it is the way that Drupal displays that data on a front-facing web page. With a headless content management system, we can enter a piece of content and then use an API to bring that data or content into any kind of system that we want to and build around it. So that was an attractive solution to us because we already had a number of places we were storing data, and we already had a number of data models for the types of content that Sarah talked about already. And so the idea of putting a UI layer on top of those, that was a CMS that we could then point users to say, hey, here's where the content is, update as needed, review it here, do whatever you need to do with it in here. And you're really only affecting the data source, and then we can use our APIs to bring it wherever we need to bring it. That was an attractive solution for us. So the challenge, of course, and here's where I'm going to share my screen once more, is that there are so many headless CMS systems on the market right now. And so, we tried a couple. We looked at various ones, and we came to, here again, this is an example. Here, these are all open source headless CMS systems. But the one that really stuck out to us is this one here, Strappy, that we investigated at the time, which was really a beta product at the time. But there are a couple of reasons that this was attractive to us. The first is that the backend for this system is a MongoDB database, which is a part of our stack that we already had in place for our collections API. The second is that the front end of this system is built on the React framework. Again, a JavaScript framework that we have a lot of experience with because we employ it in certain sections of our website. So again, a system that fit comfortably into our tech stack and that leveraged existing skill sets and experience that we had was kind of worth its weight in gold for us at this kind of point in time. And then the third thing that was super important to us that Strappy was kind of the defining factor for it is that one of the core concepts in Strappy is the notion of relationships between types of content. And that can be one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, however you want to do that. And we knew from our content assessment and from looking at the types of problems that, things like the campus art website and our microsites really brought to the surface, it was those relationships that we needed to build that were missing from our current data services that would really, make this project a reality for us. So that's how we ended up using this Strappy system. And just to be clear here, I don't want to make this into a presentation about one particular system. We chose that system, again, because that's what made sense for us. But perhaps the more important takeaway there is we started with a problem statement, and then we shopped around, and that led us to a decision-making process around a system that seemed to meet our needs and that we could grow with. And so that's how we ended up with Strappy, which has been running operationally for about 1.5 years now at the museum. A few caveats, of course, always with open source software, and Strappy is no different. You are bound, especially if you adopt a product that is not at a full release, which Strappy was not when we did. Caveat emptor, you are bound to the development roadmap of that product. And so, there were some instances in which we had made customizations that because of changes that were made to the base code, we had to roll back and redo. And that's just a hazard that you have to encounter anytime that you adopt an open source system. And we try to keep up with development. And again, there was not a full release of Strappy until maybe within the last 6 months, I would say. So we really kind of went out on a limb in certain ways there from a development standpoint. But we're happy with how it's worked so far. And I'm going to turn this back over to Sarah now, who is going to walk you through the Strappy system in a little more detail and show you how it's working for us.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. And feel free to interject when I have the screens up because you were part of building all of this out. So let's see. So let me take us back. and get us into Strappy now. So here's the Strappy interface, and right now, we are in the audio tracks area, but let me take you home. So this is the home screen, and here on the left-hand side is where you have essentially your collection types. And like Dan said, now that this is all connected to the front-facing API, you can see here is our objects. We have also exhibitions, which is connected to our exhibition API. And also our makers and cultures and object sets, which are connected to our object packages. So I will just walk you through some audio tracks first. So here's all of our audio tracks that we've cataloged so far. And just to show you, I will show you the audio tracks that we've cataloged for this object that we showed you at the beginning of the presentation. So as you can see, we have two very nice audio tracks from two different voices at the university. So in Strappy, we are able to search by object numbers, and you will see that both of these will pull up here. And so this is the first audio track that was displayed on the microsite. And so as you can see here, in the right-hand column is where you can establish any of the relationships you would like to do so. So we've related this back to this particular object in the collection. And I don't know if you recall, but there were 3 comparative illustrations associated with that audio file. So here you will see we have cataloged separately in Strappy in the image section all of the images, and we've related those to this audio file. And also we've established a relationship to the maker, James Fitzgerald. We have some other collection types that I'll talk about a little bit. So we have concepts here and also places. So these two collection types were very much built in mind with the campus art website. So as you can see when I drop this down, the concepts are very much limited to campus art and unique concepts around that collection. So obviously this has no concepts to relate it to for this particular piece. But we also have places down here too, which was established solely for campus art. So places right now is just connected to our authoritative list from the university for buildings on campus. So this is where we are able to establish any specific locations across campus. Like Dan said, if we ever want to recreate this website outside of Drupal, all of this information is here. So as you can see, this is our data entry area here. So as you can see, we've kept the data model fairly simple. So we have the title field and the area to put the audio transcription. You'll also see that there is a bit of repetitive information right now. We've just been very much, trying to learn as we go, think in mind for the next stage of this project with display. Will we use this title field when we show search results? Would we rather have some type of standard prefix to make the display much neater than just various titles across? So that's why you see certain repetitive text here within the title, and then also the transcription field. So we also have this field for source project. This is what we've used to at least tag all of the campus art generated material in Strappy. Right now, this is just a free text field because every time we thought about using some type of authoritative list, but it was a little too complicated to redeploy Strappy every single time. So right now, this field is very, we're still working on building this out. This source project field could help possibly with search results, and we're still thinking about that field. So as you can see, we also have a file URI field here. And so this links back to where we have cataloged this in Internet Archive, the digital library. And we also have a speaker type. So, like Dan said, we very much used campus art as a model for thinking about how we want to catalog these things. And with campus art, it was really great with all of these audio files. There was a real wide array of different voices and speaker type. And outside of campus art, at the museum, we have many different voices now contributing to interpretation about the collection. And we really see that being a layer of discoverability. Would you like to hear an audio file or see a text by a curator or a faculty member, a student, a conservator, or so on? So that's what that speaker type is. And we have that built into the other collection types as well. So I will show you also the video screen. So videos are also very similar to how we catalog audio files. So here you see we have a record for a video file that we cataloged for a piece in our collection. And it's, as you can see, it's very much the same. We have the title field. If you want to put in a short description about the video, we also have a place to also load a closed captioning file. We've also been slowly transcribing those as we've been producing more recent videos. And again, all of your relationships are established here in the right-hand side of the screen. I'll show you essays, which we've also done quite a bit of retrospective cataloging for. So essays initially began as just a place to catalog any type of narrative or interpretation about a group of objects, or in particular maybe a piece that was on the campus art website. As you can see here, we have lots and lots of newsletters. So our production assistant cataloged any newsletter or magazine article that our museum had produced about specific objects in our collection or exhibitions. And so I will just show you what this screen looks like. So as you can see, this source projects field still hasn't been sussed out for this, because right now we just know that it's a newsletter in the title field. So again, I think in the future we will really be refining this source project for display and discoverability once we get into that piece of the grant. I think I'll also just show you our object sets. So here, let's see if we have one that I can show you. So I had briefly showed you an object set for a rotation we had on in our Prince corridor. So as you can see here, we have some of our API up here. So this is our package ID from TMS, and the data entry here is very much limited to the title field of what the actual object set collection is, the actual text, and then here is where you get into pieces of preparing for presentation. So here we can pick a lead image, and as you can see, we can just drop in a link to a JP2 file. So that's just a little bit about the main areas that we really cataloged into Strappy, and I don't know if Dan wants to add anything or have you walk through any other parts of Strappy.
I think this is a great place to end up, Sarah, because this object set content type that we're looking at is really the full realization of what we're seeing here is a combination of data coming out of our API, driven directly via TMS, into Strappy, where it's being mashed up with data that a human being is entering to augment that and then present a full web platform ready piece of content. And this is, even still, what we're not seeing here necessarily is the list of objects that are part of this object set, because that's all in the background, and we consider that to be canonical TMS data. Whereas, this other stuff like the thumbnail, we don't have a place in TMS for that, so this is where that comes into play.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to get everyone set up with a sandbox environment link, so I will share my screen.
So one of the things that has always been kind of funny to me about MCN is that we get into these conference rooms and we talk about technology, and with the exception of some of the workshop type things, there's not a lot of opportunity for hands-on kind of experiences. So in the description to this session on the MCN site, we're going to add a link to a Google Drive folder, which will have screenshots that we've shared, links that we've shared, and it's also going to have a login for a sandbox environment that we've set up, which is an exact duplicate of the Strappy system that we're using. And that's a generic login that anyone can grab, use, go in there, edit content, look at content, add relationships, do whatever you want in there, really, because I think, some of these concepts are so very abstract that until you really spend some time with them and look at them close up, it can be hard to understand exactly how they're working. So we hope that that's something that people find useful. And we're excited to share it with you, and it'll be up for at least, I would say, a month or two after this session. So that's that. And I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah, who's going to kind of wrap us up here in a couple minutes, talk about a few other things that we have percolating as a result of this project that were not initially conceived as being part of it, that are really interesting.
Yeah, so to date, what we've accomplished so far is our production assistant has completely done a full assessment and inventory of all of the resources already created. So she has now, I believe, cataloged over 200 audio tracks and video files into Strappy and 600 essays. We've also done a real assessment on our learning resources. So many of our learning resources are gallery driven. And so I don't know if anyone follows news at the Princeton University Art Museum, but our museum will be, the building will be closing in the next few months. So a lot of these PDFs for family activities and even teacher resources are all, oriented in the galleries. So she was able to really assess those and say, do we need to transform these and put these into Strappy, or do we need to just completely disregard these resources that have been created in the past? So we're really focusing on our learning resource model right now. We have a very basic model set up. So I can see us really expanding that, how we catalog learning resources in the future. I can see us, looking to other institutions. What do other institutions do for search capability for things like curriculum, narrowing down subjects, age groups, and things like that. So that's not quite yet there in Strappy, but that's definitely on our plate in the next few months to work on. Outside of learning resources, we're about to start the design piece of all of this content, how we will deliver this online, how the search will behave, how this will show on object pages and things like that. So that will be coming in the next few months. The grant also covered content creation. So our production assistant has been working closely with all the curators to each generate, I believe, 5 unique new pieces of content around the collection. So those will also be cataloged into Strappy. And like Dan said, we're going to talk about kind of how Strappy has really helped us in various ways outside of the original scope of the project. So one area would be our image description project here at the museum. So back in March, our department was tasked with helping find a project for people to be able to do, to work remotely. And the project that came up was writing image descriptions for objects in our collection. And so essentially, I think I'm going to turn things over to Dan, who's going to talk a little bit about how Strappy came into play for that project.
Yes, so as Sarah said, now that we have this system available to us, it's very interesting, the various things that we're finding that we can do with it. And the image description project is, a great example of both combining the urgency of need around this moment in time, and leveraging this system to make it all work. So what we did was we built this very simple application, front-facing application, through which staff members could enter image descriptions for accessibility purposes. This data goes directly via this website through our API into our MongoDB instance, and then is made available in Strappy. So that someone, say like an approver, could come back, review these, and determine which ones are approved. And then once approved, they channel back out through our API so that we can provide these image descriptions wherever they're needed. So this is a really interesting project that a couple of people have been working on, and it's been going really well, I think. There's a second project that I'm going to mention right now too, surrounding courses at the university that are using museum resources. So again, when the university went remote around March, it was decided that we need to be able to programmatically provide resources to professors who are teaching with museum objects. And so the idea was to set up a web page like this that a student or a professor could come to, look at and say, okay, what's everything available for this course? Where can I get the PowerPoint? Where can I get high-res images? Where can I get any number of other things? So again, we built out a content type for this in Strappy, sourced from a TMS object package, comes in here, gets mashed up. We add data like the instructor, the name of the course, and then it comes back out through our API, and that's how you end up with a web page like this. And so, this is something that previously everyone would have had to maintain by hand, but we've been able to do it in a much more robust programmatic fashion to our benefit, I think.
Yeah, so those are just only 2 examples of, how Strappy has just really kind of transformed, workflow and various projects that we just originally didn't anticipate Strappy supporting. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. I think we're just about at time, Sarah. So if you have anything else to add really quick, otherwise.
I don't. I'm looking forward to, speaking with all of you during the live Q&A and hearing questions and talking more about Strappy.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for watching, and thank you to MCN for making this whole thing work the way that it has this year. It's incredible. And talk to you soon.